Hello everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today I'm projecting the team representing Finland at the 2025 Four Nations Faceoff. So before we get too far into today, these rosters will become official as of 2 p.m. Eastern Time on December the 4th. That's Wednesday, December the 4th, as well as Canada, US will be at 6:30. Finland and Sweden will be at 2 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., we'll be live here on the channel to discuss these results, any surprises, any questions you guys might have. So be sure to come back on Wednesday, December the 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, as we will be live on the channel discussing all the results from the Four Nations Face-Off roster reveal. But we'll hop into it today, starting with the 6 players already on the team for Team Finland for this tournament. So we have Sebastian Aho, Alexander Barkov, Mikko Rantanen. On the defense, we have Esa Lindell, Miro Heiskanen, and the goaltender, UC Saros. So really nothing too surprising here. I'm pretty sure anyone could have thrown a dart at and hit those 6 players. If you had any sense, I don't really think there are any surprises there. But we'll move it along here now to some of my predictions. And I think, when we look at Finland, they're kind of a team that is a little bit more or less, they're not going to be the most skilled team at this tournament, which means they're going to have to stick to a very structured game if they want any shot at beating any of these teams, whether it's Canada, the US, or Sweden. Those are 3 of probably the best teams out there. I mean, I know our Czech fans are a little bit riled up right now. We saw in the last World Championship where they won it. I know that was certainly a topic of discussion for a lot of the fans in the international community, especially. As I know many NHL fans are starting to come into this international space now with this tournament and are really interested in seeing that. So for the record, from the World Championships, from the World Juniors, which is the stuff that we cover here on the channel, all the international stuff, a lot of unhappy people, especially from our Czech fans, that are disappointed, to say the least, that their team isn't in this as well, make it a 5-nation. You throw Russia in there too, there's 6. So nonetheless, we'll move it along the predictions here. So my prediction in terms of the forwards is Tervo Teravainen, Anton Lundell, Rupe Hintz, Arturi Lehkonen, Jesper Kotkaniemi, Kaapo Kakko, Erik Haula, Eetu Luosterainen, Matthias Michelli, and Mikael Granlund. And for me, these are the players in my eyes that should be on this team. I think there's going to be a little bit of politics, especially with these last 2 guys, that kind of get them there. And I think Michelli's a guy who it's flown under a lot of people's radar. Some of the players that I've left off this list is Ilya Tolvanen. He's a player that I know a lot of people have. For me, I like Granlund and I like Michelli more than Tolvanen personally. I know a lot of people might disagree with that take, but also there is Joel Armia, who's another player who, he's represented Finland on a lot of the stages. So he's a player with that experience that you might want to take as well. He's a player I wouldn't be surprised to see on there, as well as Patrick Laine. He's a player that's injured right now. In most circumstances, say it was last year, I think he'd be on this team. But obviously a little bit of off-ice issues, not to mention the injury. I think he's going to be a tough guy to say for sure that, yeah, we're going to be able to take him on this team. Obviously, you are allowed to change players as the tournament progresses. So, for example, say from now until, for example, February, right, when the tournament starts, if you're going to have an injury in that span, which is likely what Laine would have coming into it, you might just take him, say, okay, we're going to take Laine and we're going to have a guy like Granlund or Michelli back just in case, right? Just in case he's not available. But I think Laine is a guy who you'd like to have in the lineup if he's healthy and if he's able to play. I just don't know as of right now that they're going to be able to say yes for sure and say we're taking you assuming you get healthy, because it's only for injury, at least the way I've read it, that you're able to change out players. So if you're going to take a player, you have to make sure they're ready to go, and if they're not, you kind of run into that little bit of a problem. So you have Laine there, and then Jesse Puljujärvi for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I mean, Puljujärvi's a guy who's sort of bounced around a little bit these last couple of years. He's been an up and down guy. And I think there is a potential for him to make this team. I'm not counting him out. I just think, when you look at the other players there, you're sort of, for the Finns, looking for guys that can play a full 2-way game. And I think a guy like Granlund is going to be able to edge him out in that respect. And I think when we look at what Finland needs to do to be successful, it's can they stick to a structure, which is a guy like Granlund is going to really thrive in, right? Because you think about a guy like Granlund, he's been there, he's played in the NHL for the last 10, 15 years, whatever it might be. Puljujärvi, a little bit more fresh. hard to say where he fits in. And I think especially in the two-way game, I'm going to take a guy like Granlund any day of the week, especially with that proven veteran leadership. I think he's going to be a good guy to have, especially in the locker room for this tournament. The other, of course, factor that might come into play is what's going on. Do they want to play, and are they just going to stick it out for the season? Might be interesting there, but I do think any of these players are going to want to play, especially for their country. You know, this is a big tournament in a lot of eyes, because it is in many ways the sort of the first look we have at an Olympic team with NHL players. So I think in many ways this is sort of the tune-up for the big event, and I think this is where, you know, especially a team like Finland really wants to show their stuff, because they do have their own league, right? They have the Finnish Elite League, and maybe they pull from that, and maybe, you know, for that Olympic team, they might not have all NHL players, although they can field a team if they really want to. It might be interesting to see there. But I do think that this forward group, when you compare it to the other teams, and we'll have all our projection videos coming out these next 2 days before the final rosters are revealed. In my eyes, this is probably one of the worst forward groups there are. In my opinion, they're last out of the four teams. And even when you compare them to a team like Sweden, I think Sweden, who's historically better on the defensive side, I think they still have a better offense than a team like Finland. But nonetheless, here, this is my predicted forward group. We'll move on to the defense now with, of course, the two players that are already in with Lindell and Heiskanen. Then we have Henri Jokiharju, Olli Mata, Nico Mikkola, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Juuso Välimäki are going to be my defenders here. I think, aside from maybe Jani Hakanpää, who just went on IR again today, I think, you know, he's been on IR. He's played 2 games this season with the Leafs. He's been injured throughout this entire season for the full, I think, 20 games we're at now in the NHL. Just went back on the IR, so likely going to be out for another extended period of time. So it's going to be an interesting move if they want to try and take Hakanpää. You know, you can change out guys if they're injured, yes, but do you really want to try and worry about that right now? And I think, you know, for Finland, I think you put Välimäki in, and I think it's either going to be Välimäki or Jokiharju, sort of on that last stretch. It's going to be interesting to see what they try and pull with it. But as far as the defense goes, you know, it's another one where it doesn't look like a very strong defensive core aside from that top 2 defense and just running down the depth. You know, you have Mikkola, who will probably play with a guy like Ristolainen maybe, or Olli, like it doesn't work. And once, like, it just becomes that problem of Finland's going to have a hard time unless they stick to their structure. You know, their defensemen are naturally big, and that's what they're going to have to play. They're going to have to play a big physical game, and I think that's where these defense are going to fit in quite nicely, is playing that physical style that Finland's going to need to do to be able to compete with teams like Canada, the U.S., who are going to be fully star-powered out from the forwards to the defense to the goalies, right? And of course, the goalies are going to be a problem for Canada. The U.S. really doesn't have any weaknesses, and Sweden will be interesting to see what they can put together, as obviously they have a long historic history of struggling at the international level. But move on to the goalies now, and this is another one where it really is a toss-up. My eyes, we're going to go, so Jussi Saros, obviously already on the team, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, in my eyes, is going to be the number 2, I think, makes sense. And then I think it's going to be between Korpisalo and Kevin Lankinen for that third role, that third backup role. You know, Korpisalo has looked really good in Boston. You can see the flag behind me. Yes, I'm a Bruins fan, and I've watched enough of Korpisalo this year to know that he's put together quite the campaign. And I think if you're an outside GM looking at it, you want to ride with the guy that's hot. Yes, Kevin Lankinen's been good, but when you think about it, Thatcher Demko is going to come back. How much time is he going to get between then and the start? And at the end of the day, I think for me, I'm going to pick Joonas Korpisalo just because he's hot, and I think he is going to be the pick just based on what we've seen this season. Lankinen's been really, really good, not to take anything away from him, but I do think Korpisalo has just been that much better. So I think in the long run, this is going to be the lineup for Finland for their roster, 23-man. Obviously, there's a lot of problems with this team, right? You can sort of pick it out. You know, they got Saros, so that's the one redeeming factor, probably one of the best goalies we'll see at this tournament. But the defense, you know, you have a good top pairing, and it kind of just falls off. When you think about the other teams you're going to be playing up against, it just doesn't compete. You know, Sweden's probably going to be one of the top teams. The U.S. and Canada both have really good defense cores. And especially when you have to defend a team like, Canada, US, Sweden, you got to have the ability to defend in front of the net, play physical. And that's what Finland's going to have to try and do here. And I think this team is built to be physical and sort of pick moments in time where you're going to take that risk, try and score the goal and try and win games, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 even maybe, be able to contend and tight-knit games, I think is going to be the key to success for this Finnish team. But with that, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like, consider subscribing, tell all your friends, and then comment down below your thoughts on Team Finland. Until next time, see you.